You're listening to the Mile High Church podcast. Welcome, and thanks so much for tuning in. We've got some wonderful things happening here at the start of the new year that we hope you will consider, including all of our upcoming classes. You can find out more about those at our website, including our basics class, Beyond Limits. And speaking of basics, our Sundays in January will be Back to Basics, a series where Reverend Josh will be teaching you and inspiring you into the basic ideas of science of mind.
So I'm doing my meditation practice, and for about 3 days in a row, I'm feeling disconnected from Source. I'm too caught up in my head. And there's this creative tension in this teaching between God presence and mind power. We talk a lot about the mind power and how to use it, but it is nothing without an awareness of God presence. Now, the stuff I'm thinking about isn't bad. I'm thinking about how to be a better dad to my kids. I'm thinking about how to improve and grow and support Mile High Church. I'm thinking about how to navigate myself through some relationships that I'm experiencing as dysfunctional or fractured. But I'm stuck. And so what I choose to do is to not take the actual things, but my thinking about these things, and I bring them to mind and I let them dissolve. I see an image of my daughter and I just let it dissolve in my mind. I see Mile High Church and I just let it disappear. I see those fractured and dysfunctional relationships and I just let them be. And this is the amazing thing about the God presence. It's not something that we discover. It's something that reveals itself as there all along. It announces itself. And I was so blessed in that moment to be filled with God presence. A sense of love, a knowledge of beauty and the profound, a sense of life itself. In the beginning, God. In the beginning, God. One fundamental unity. One unconditioned joy and harmony. First cause. At the center of your being and of mine. I was so grateful to be filled with God presence. Secret number one, and perhaps the only secret there is to this teaching. God presence, mind power. It should never be mind, power, God presence. Because the God presence you're trying to invent with your mind might be really wonderful and grand, but it's not the God presence that I'm speaking to you about today. It's that God presence that reveals itself even beyond my limited thinking about the universe. And it's when I feel that God presence that I can then step into that mind power and use it for good for myself, for my loved ones, and for the world around me. Inspired by God presence, I can think about how much I love my kids and be inspired with ways to support them in their lives. I can become so jazzed up about Mile High Church and the momentum that we're creating and the work that we get to do and the healings we get to have in community. I get to look at those dysfunctional and fractured relationships and see them from a point of view of wholeness as opposed to from that place of isolation I was talking about earlier. God presence, mind power. Ernest Holmes, in what I believe to be his best work, This Thing Called You, says, "You are an eternal being now on the pathway of endless unfoldment. Never less, but always more yourself. Life is not static. It is forever dynamic, forever creating. Not something done and finished, but something alive, awake, and aware. There is something within you that sings the song of eternity. Listen to it. There is an eternal springtime of your soul. Always rising, but never setting, is the sun of your destiny." And again, I do not share that as ethereal, bubblegum spirituality talk. I believe Ernest Holmes' words, they are absolutely the truth of who you are. I invite you into the proposition this morning that the very creative element that brought forth the cosmos, The very creative principle is a spark within your being right here and right now. That when I say in the beginning God, I am not speaking to a time in history, but to an eternal event that is taking place in your soul right here and right now, so that I can declare within me right now that very life that brought forth the cosmos and all existence is right here within me. And I allow my thinking and my actions, I ground my feeling in this creative life. And I allow it to do wonders in all that I do. If you can only open up an inkling to this God presence and just allow it, just let it work in your life, it will provide incredible healing and demonstrations. I always say put this God presence first, and when I say that, I don't mean put everyone you love and the things you have to do second. No. We put this God presence first because it gives us everything we need to make priority with wisdom and discernment and love the things we care about most. My loved ones do not need my controlling mind. My problems don't need me stewing in them for flavor. My relationships aren't mine to fix. My wholeness is where my work is. Embracing that God presence in you, I'm going to argue, is where your work is. And when we can embrace it and allow it to work in our lives, just get out of the way. That's all we have to do. And let it in. It can be transformational. That's my wish for you this year, is that you simply dedicate yourself to being closer to your source, closer to that which gives you a sense of the God presence. The good news is most of these things we really love to do. Ralph Waldo Emerson, our philosophical forefather, he said, that is always best which returns me to myself. What returns you to your capital S self? In the morning for me, it's spiritual practice. It's meditation, prayer, writing. In the afternoon, it's hanging out with all of you. It's supporting people, encouraging people, receiving support, experiencing the healings that are taking place. In the evening time, it's getting to read to my daughter and to give thanks for the day that was, for things just as they are and just as they aren't. To just recognize and bask in that blessing of life. These are things that bring me closer to source. Music. I'm willing to guess that social media is not bringing you closer to your source. Right? We can be aware of those things that we know are disconnecting us from source, and we can replace them with the things that we know give us this sense of life energy. Sometimes we have to choose what brings us closer to source over than what may appear to be the common sense. Mother Teresa, Saint Teresa of Calcutta, tells the story of running the orphanage there and this little girl that kept being brought in, fed. She's been living on the street, showered, bed to sleep in, and then she runs away. She runs away over and over, and one of the nuns finally tracks her, follows her, and finds this little girl sleeping with a woman in a park underneath the tree. She confronts the little girl and says, "Why do you keep leaving us?" Because, the little girl says, "I love to be close to my mother." Sometimes getting closer to source means not always prioritizing what appears to be the highest material good. What's going to make us more money or make us look more fit or get more stuff done. Choosing that which connects us with source unlocks the power that makes all those things the positive byproduct of being one with our source. In the Gospels and the Holy Bible, we're only told one story of Jesus in his youth. The family goes to Jerusalem and they lose the boy. This is the first Home Alone. Sorry, Nathan. And they're searching for Jesus everywhere, and they finally find Jesus in the synagogue. And he says, "Well, why would you not know that I wouldn't be in my Father's house, consumed with him?" The spiritual message of the story is not to reject family, but it's to recognize that we're always called to source, that sometimes we have to put that sense of codependency of helping our loved ones all the time and trying to get everything done down so that we can connect with the source and then return to caring for our loved ones, inspired and fulfilled, not empty, resentful, and drained. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The Buddha dedicates himself to trying every religious philosophy he can to try to find an awareness of compassion in his life. And he fails. He can't do it. He tries everything. And the Bodhi tree becomes the symbol of doing nothing, of letting everything go and just sitting under the tree. He has to overcome the sense of illusions that are being shown around him, but by just being, awakening happens. What a wonderful spiritual instruction. There's nothing you have to do. We only have to allow what is to be revealed, the God presence that then infuses the mind power. A Buddhist proverb says it well. There is really nothing you must be, and there is nothing you must do. There is really nothing you must have, and there is nothing you must know. There is really nothing you must become. However, it helps to understand that fire burns, and when it rains, the earth gets wet. The Buddha says that when one is inspired with Buddha awareness, spiritual awareness, it is like the moon coming out from behind a cloud. It illumines not only your life, but the life of everyone around you. For this Back to Basics series, and I'll just say for 2026 itself, I've written a little prayer for you. This is my wish for you, hopefully from not that controlling place, but from a place of trust and blessing. Let your strength turn into allowing. Let your labor turn into motivation. Let your experience turn into creativity. Let your loneliness turn into giving. Let your focus turn into not knowing. Let your plans turn into adventure. Let everything about you become subject to change. Knowing what is your essentiality becomes an ever more present reality. That's my wish for you, is that your essentiality, the very crux of your soul, your authenticity, your openness, your own spirit, that what is being called for in your life more than anything else is you. You. This thing called life, this thing called you, the creator in you. And my only bit of advice for all of 2026 is if you can daily make time to connect with your source, it will demonstrate for you the healings, the depth, the connection, the epiphanies, the ahas, the joy, the harmony, the love that you seek. That's all you have to do. Ease up. Take off the pressure. As I'll talk about in a moment, release that illusory self that believes that they are separated from everyone and everything else. They are not real. And return with that sense of essentiality to yourself and find everything improved. It doesn't mean a carefree existence. The trials are not going to go away, but you will have been imbibed with the spirit and the passion that you need to thrive through those challenges. I'm so grateful to be using Ernest Holmes' This Thing Called You. Again, it was written in 1945. If you were to ask me the greatest spiritual book written in the last 100 years, I'd probably argue for 3 or 4, but for the sake of the series, I'm going to say it's This Thing Called You. It's the best spiritual book written in the last 100 years. And it's still relevant and powerful. You have to get through a little bit of the languaging here or there. It was clearly written in 1945. But it's so powerful. And what makes it so powerful is it's not a book of philosophy. It's a book of ideas, but it's a book about how to practice those ideas versus to get caught in trying to explain them, which usually cancels the idea out in the first place. That's what we do here in this teaching. We take a spiritual idea, we seek to practice it in our lives, and that tells us whether it's true or not for us. You get to decide. But we have these incredible quotes. He shares, you already are a spiritual being. When the mind understands this and embodies its essence, that which you are in the invisible will become apparent in the visible. If God created you after his own nature and there's nothing else he could have made you out of, then the thing you are after is already here within you. The only things that stand between you and it are the accumulated thoughts, beliefs, and emotions of the ages. Learn to exchange fears, doubts, and uncertainties for faith. Faith can make you whole. Faith can convert fear into certainty, poverty into riches, disease into health. Faith can lift you from a valley of despair into a mountain of hope and certainty. You need not believe in any particular religious system to discover the wellspring of life. You find it at the center of your own being, in the quiet of the evening, in the stillness of the night, at the dawn of the new day, and in the midst of activity. Your consciousness, which means the sum total of your thoughts, is the medium between the invisible cause and your personal life. To sum up the entirety of the Science of Mind and Spirit teaching, there is one life that is this God presence. It is equally distributed. In fact, it is universalized in each and every individual. Everywhere, eternally, ever present. This one life. Second, the only thing that stands between you and your experience of your life is not only your negative thinking, but is the sum total of the thinking of all the ages. Right? That's that generational trauma we hear so much about. We have to overcome that stuff. And yet, when we allow our awareness of this God presence to overcome the negative thinking and the limited thinking of the consciousness that can be around us, it demonstrates in your life as healing, happiness, well-being, and prosperity. You do not have to be of a particular faith to experience this God presence. You only need to be a person of faith. And it is our faith that brings us the knowledge of the truth, and this truth shall set us free. This all sounds really simple, profound, and specific. And yet, the challenge goes back to this isolated self I was talking about. Yeah, I can buy into all that, but there's still this part of me that believes that everything is falling apart at all times. That always at all times, someone out there is mad at me, and there's something I need to fix. There's this part of me that always believes that there's this aspect of me that is totally unprepared for that which he is about to do. Do you have that too? Oh, I'm the only one again. Yours may be a little different than mine. Yours may be not someone always mad at you, but you may be always mad at someone. You may always find that you can't help but run into the brick wall of your own judgment on an everyday basis. As fully available as this God presence is to each and every one of us, this isolated self of our constructed has done everything in their power to reject themselves from it, to abandon themselves from it, to keep themselves on the outside of it. And so our work is not to dislike or hate this isolated self. It's to confront that isolated self and bring them into our wholeness. I hope this isn't too weird, but imagine with me for a moment that you are surrounded by an orange ball of fire. Doesn't burn. It's this orange ball of fire that symbolizes this version of not self that in order for survival or because of a lack of understanding that we built up over time to try and protect ourselves from life. Not realizing that in isolating ourselves from life, we cut ourselves off from the creative principle and greater love and harmony and healing in our lives. And we can see in this red fire that surrounds us, black tarry spots that are filled with the negative experiences and stories that we've told ourselves that have inhibited us, that have caused us to repress our heart and our passion, that have caused us to believe that we are not love or life worthy. And we can see all of those there. And yet, at the same time, we can even in the midst of this fire remember that truth of who we are. That in the beginning, God, that the Spirit that created all of life is a Sabbath resting in my heart right here and right now. that all I have to do is overcome my misbelief, the misunderstandings that I have built around myself that I believed are real. And I only need to allow this God presence to fill my mind, my heart, and my life to receive a greater good. And perhaps if you want to continue to join me to now see this orange-red fire transform into a blue fire. A blue fire like the fairy godmother in Pinocchio, just surrounded by this glaring blue light that represents the symbol of knowing the truth of who we are. It is always there, but our knowing of it turns it on like a switch and reveals that it's been there all along. And instead of that black tar, what we begin to see is little golden threads, almost silk golden threads that are weaving in, through, and throughout our whole being of this blue fire. These golden threads represent that truth of who we are that has been always in our lives, even when we've forgotten it. They're the truth of our spirit, our personality, our relationships, this great blessing called life. And we allow this blue light, this blue fire, to be an image that we can indeed return to again and again, to remind us that we are not an isolated being disconnected from the rest of people in the world, that through our solitude, we step into the greater truth of who we are and realize our connection with everyone and everything, right here and right now. To close with some final words from this thing called you for the day. Since you are primarily a spiritual and mental being, you must rearrange your thoughts to meet, to agree with, to harmonize and unify with this new concept. No one can do this for you as well as you can do it for yourself. Try to simplify the whole process. Make it direct. You are starting out on a great adventure, a wonderful journey. You are guided by love, inspired by truth, and your future will be what you make it. So just moving into a prayer this morning, I invite any of our incredible prayer practitioners to stand and join me. They are available to provide you with an affirmative prayer after the service in front of the stage. So recognizing this thing called life, this God presence, and recognizing this thing called you, that which we choose to embody and bring forth out of our own awareness of this divine presence within us. I open my mind to this God presence so that it may be opened, shaped, evolved, expanded, deepened in the heart of life. I open my heart to this God presence, experiencing grief transformed into greater love and understanding, experiencing hurts brought back into a greater sense of oneness and wholeness. Any part of myself that I have locked away from the divine good, I put forth on the table of this life here and now and allow it to be uplifted and reintegrated into my wholeness. And I open up my life this day, not to my own wisdom, but to the wisdom of the grand mystery of spirit. Not to my own control, but to a higher power that knows just what to do in each and every circumstance. I open up my life and commit to a greater degree of trust. Staying close to Source, it informs every aspect of my being and my life. I experience renewed resonance. My life has renewed relevance. And with a profound reverence, I embrace the sacred in all things, including in this thing called you, that me, that each of us are. We let it be, we let it become, and so it is. Amen. Thanks for listening to the Mile High Church podcast. This podcast is made possible by the generous contributions from listeners like you. To make a donation, please visit milehighchurch.org.